I am Nicole King, and this is Marbella Now.
And as time flies by, you'll open up your eyes wide. You feel it's gonna go your way. Hey, hey, it's a brand new day. Hey, hey, hey.
Joining me today is Rachel Garrod, Dr. Rachel Garrod. She's a physio and she specialises in breathing. Now, it sounds like a silly thing to say breathing. We all do it. But do we do it right? We don't, do we? Hi, Rachel. Lovely to see you again.
Yeah, lovely to see you as well.
Welcome back to the programme. It's such a fascinating subject for me because I'm the first one when I'm concentrating or if I'm doing exercise, I actually just don't breathe.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I'm sure that is not the right thing to do.
I mean, even people without lung disease can have poor breathing patterns. Most of the patients that I've been seeing lately, I mean, normally as a respiratory physiotherapist, what I do is I see patients with lung disease. Generally, they're referred to me by the doctors. But like, for instance, somebody I'm seeing at the moment is post-surgery for lung cancer. So there's lots and lots of respiratory diseases that that physiotherapy can help. I see people with asthma, and I'll see people with EPOC in Spanish, or chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, which is like an emphysema, what we know as emphysema. But even people, you're right, even people without those underlying lung diseases can have very poor patterns of breathing.
What does one do? I mean, in the sense, apart from me stopping breathing, I know that I have a very little capacity when you take in oxygen. Again, I suppose it's like any muscle, you just need to exercise.
Well, you're right. I mean, the breathing muscles can be trained, they can be strengthened. We've got little muscles here in between the ribs, and those muscles can be strengthened with a gadget called an inspiratory muscle trainer. And that gadget, it's almost like sucking like on a great big thick milkshake, because you're actually breathing in against resistance. So the gadget provides resistance as you breathe in. So that is actually strengthening the intercostal muscles. We've also got the diaphragm, which is the big muscle of breathing that sits underneath the lungs, and that as well is a muscle, and that as well can be strengthened. Mostly people breathe poorly because of to do with bad habits, just like our posture can be poor, or that they may breathe poorly because of sort of anxiety or stress. And that's what, I mean, the workshops that we're going to be doing are around really helping people learn how to breathe most effectively.
I know that, for example, when anyone talks about yoga, meditation, basically everything nowadays to do with well-being includes breathing.
Yeah.
And if you're feeling stressed, taking a few deep breaths,
Yeah.
breathing out slowly, controlling it. The minute we're conscious of our breathing, makes a big difference.
Yeah.
And yet it's something we do naturally. Thankfully, we don't have to think
Yeah.
about it,
Yeah.
but we would be better off if we did.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So, I mean, there's a load of things around at the moment, and often you'll see people talking about breath work programs, breath work treatments. And breath work is just about the conscious management of using different breathing techniques to help bring consciousness to your breathing. So when you were saying earlier about how could you get a maximal breath in, well, one of the ways that you might be able to get maximal breath in is about making sure that you keep your shoulders relaxed. So the shoulders relaxed, and that the air comes right down to the bottom of your lungs. If you slow your breathing pattern down, they've done some research and they found that if you breathe 6 breaths a minute, so our normal breathing rate is about 12 breaths a minute, so if you actually breathe 6 breaths a minute, then what they found is that gives maximal ventilation and will improve your oxygenation very slightly. So slowing the breath down, taking a deep breath in and out. I mean, even thinking in terms of when you're doing the 6 breaths a minute, you're thinking inhalation for 5 to the count of 5, exhalation to the count of 5, so that in total that cycle of breathing, that cycle of taking a breath and breathing out is about 10 seconds. And of course, then every minute you'll be doing about 6 breaths a minute. So that's one way that we can get maximal ventilation.
So what does a respiratory physio actually do?
I think that's a really great question. When you think of physiotherapy, you don't tend to think of physiotherapy, as you say, looking after the breathing. But respiratory physiotherapists, and in America they're called respiratory therapists, we focus on managing people with lung disease. So this might be somebody who's being ventilated so that they're not able to use their lungs themselves. So we will help them with the equipment and the machines. We will help them take deep breaths so that the lungs don't actually collapse. But we will see lots of patients with lung disease. We will see patients with lung disease such as cystic fibrosis, asthma.
What is cystic fibrosis?
So cystic fibrosis is a genetic disease. You're born with it. It has a poor life expectancy. It is a genetic disease. It basically, how it affects the lungs is that you get a lot of phlegm. You get a lot of phlegm, and so that obviously affects the oxygen uptake, it affects the oxygen transfer, and it means that you're always coughing and needing to clear this phlegm. So people, usually children with cystic fibrosis, will need to do maybe 15 to 20 minutes of airway clearance to actually clear the phlegm from their lungs. But there are much better treatments around now that can help make that airway clearance treatment easier for them to do. But it is a pretty nasty disease, cystic fibrosis. We still haven't got a cure for it at the moment. They might end up usually needing lung transplant, a heart lung transplant.
Wow.
Yeah. But most, patients with asthma, we all know what asthma is. The thing about asthma is that although as physios we can't treat the underlying pathology, the underlying disease, what we can do is help the person with asthma manage asthma attacks better so that they're not so breathless when they're having attacks. We can help them learn about triggers. We can help them be fitter so that actually their lungs will be stronger, like we talked about earlier with strengthening of the muscles and things like that. In physiotherapy, all of physiotherapy is really about movement. Everything that physiotherapists do, whether it be a bad back, we will use movement and exercise to help improve that back and that back problem. And that's really what respiratory physios are doing. We are doing movement. They might be breathing exercises, it might be general exercises, it might be exercises specifically targeting the breathing muscles, but it might also be exercises targeting the legs. Because if your legs are weak, your lungs have to work harder for you to do any exercise.
Well,
yeah. So, we need the whole body to be strong. We need the heart to be strong. We need the lungs to be strong. But actually, if the rest of the body is strong as well, then that means the heart and the lungs don't have to work so hard.
it's amazing how everything really is connected. It makes sense, but we don't realise. Don't go away. We're going to be back in a few minutes with Dr. Rachel, physio, specialising in breathing, after this short break.
Judy likes to consider herself a clever young woman, which is why she thought very carefully before choosing her insurance company. Now that she needs it, she's jolly glad she chose Línea Directa, as it looks as if she might have something better to do. Why don't you be clever, like Judy? Call Línea Directa on 952 14 78 34 and see which policy is best for you.
Everyone that comes and wants to join our zerohero association, they will have free non-alcoholic drinks at our venue at any time.
Hi guys, Ross here from Hogan Stand. Proud to be a member of the zerohero campaign, and we recommend everybody. Nobody drives drinking. Everybody who drives a car doesn't have any alcohol in their system, and we're proud to sponsor the zerohero program.
Is happy to be zerohero partner.
How cool is that? GY.
We are proud to present Zero to Hero. Never drink and drive.
When I'm the designated driver, I think it's only fair that I get to choose a zerohero venue that rewards me with free soft drinks. My friends all get to choose and booze, and they feel safe going home with me. Make sure that you get your reward for being the designated driver. Why pay if you don't have to?
Let it set you on your way. No time to
Zero Hero, welcome here at the Gaucho de Lanús.
tearing us apart. Poison arrows shoot straight to your heart.
Welcome to Lemongrass, Doña Lola. Thank you very much.
Just believe it's worth your time. One. We are
Zero Hero, welcome to Portofino, Cabo Pino.
we are
Hi guys, Kazutua is proud to welcome the Zero Heroes. So come on in and enjoy free soft drinks for anyone who is the designated driver. Thank you, Nicole.
So here we are at Everest. Very cool.
Yeah.
Stickers going up.
Hiya, my name is Govinda. I'm from Everest. Welcome to Zero Hero, to Everest Fusion, to enjoy your cocktails, drinks, and happy hour as well. And food, of course, is delicious. Thank you.
change if you try. Just believe it.
Welcome to Sister Taperia. Perfecto.
Welcome back. I'm chatting with Dr. Rachel Garrod. She is a physio for breathing. I just love that you're specialising in getting those breathing muscles fit. Before the break, Rachel, you were saying that it's the whole body
Yeah.
that really needs to be
I mean, in
in shape.
physiotherapy, like medicine, in physiotherapy, you train to be a physiotherapist, and you will cover all the areas of physiotherapy. So that would be musculoskeletal, so the sort of backs and necks that we're more familiar with as physiotherapists, or swollen ankles, that sort of thing. We might go into orthopedics, which would be after surgery. Might go into pediatrics, which is looking after obviously children. Neuro, so after people have had strokes or something like that, helping them do rehabilitation. And there's a whole area of specialization towards respiratory. So for that, we're looking at, as I say, people with illness, with lung disease, but also people who perhaps because of paralysis or, I'm thinking now, like, have you heard of the iron lung?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's post-polio victims who their muscles were paralyzed and they were no longer able to take a breath for themselves. So they were, I mean, most of these people now will be treated with portable ventilators, and anyway, we've cured polio, so, we've eradicated mostly. But in the old days, there would be a lot of patients who were in these iron lungs, and we would be treating them, physios would be treating their chest within the actual iron lung.
Why did you get involved in this speciality?
Well, I thought originally when I trained to be a physio, I thought I was going to do musculoskeletal and work in ski resorts because I loved skiing. So that was what I was going to do. And then I found that actually, I injured my back during my training, and it was quite a significant injury in that it meant bending over was pretty uncomfortable. And a lot of musculoskeletal physio is about bending over and mobilizing all the joints. And I found that really quite uncomfortable. I found, in fact, that where I was most comfortable was walking. And so a lot of respiratory physio is about you walking onto the ward. You go from one ward to another ward. You might be taking patients out, walking and exercising. And so actually I found that the work that I was doing with the patients was better for my back. Also, I love physiology. So that's how the body works. I was really interested in physiology, and in particular, lung and respiratory physiology is absolutely fascinating. And I just really liked the patients because they're stoic, some of my patients are so breathless. They are on 24 hours oxygen. They can barely move. They can barely move at all. And yet they've still got a smile on their face, and they're just carrying on with life. And that's what I really loved. Preferred that to somebody who sort of, had a slight ache in the shoulder and was whinging all the time.
It's funny how there is something for everyone.
Yeah.
I think it's curious that I wouldn't have put together necessarily for this the lovely Sally Williams, together with you doing now a breathing course. How did that combination come about?
So Sally Williams, lovely Sally Williams, who is a qualified yoga teacher.
So I had no idea.
Right.
Known her for years.
Right, yeah, she was a qualified yoga teacher in Hatha and a couple of other types of yoga. And also she's done extra courses to teach yoga for people with disabilities. So when we got talking about the connection between physiotherapy breathing techniques, and we realized that there's so many similarities between yoga breathing techniques and physiotherapy breathing techniques. And like in yoga, the breathing techniques is called pranayama. So from a yoga perspective, they might be very spiritual, but actually some of the techniques that they're doing are very similar. So we got talking and we found, like I said, there were so many connections. It was like, we felt a bit like we were the bridge between the East and the Western approaches. So I sort of come in, you know, I have the physiology background, I have the medical background, and I can teach breathing techniques and explain what that's happening. But Sally, of course, has the yoga and the spiritual understanding and the calming. And in fact, even our meditation treatments are very similar. I do a guided meditation, and she does something very similar, but a muscle relaxant meditation. Yeah, so we got chatting, and we realized that there's a lot of people, particularly with the pandemic and all that we've been through, but even regardless of that, there's a lot of people who, they may not have any lung disease, they don't have anything wrong with their lungs, but their breathing patterns are poor. And a poor breathing pattern contributes to feelings of tightness, it contributes to cough, frequent cough, it can contribute to giddiness in the head. In fact, poor breathing patterns can even give you chest pain that can mimic cardiac disease. So you think you're having a cardiac disease, you know, you get investigated for all the heart problems, but in fact it's the way you're breathing. A lot of people breathe up here what we call apically. So you see people doing a lot. Yeah, I know.
Well, what am I telling you? You're sitting here studying me.
You are an apical breather. And you know, that does, with apical breathing, the problem with that is that it means that the air doesn't get to the bottom of the lungs properly. It also means that sometimes we take too much air in and out for the amount that the body needs. So people always think, oh, I need lots of air, I need lots of oxygen, but actually we don't. It's a myth. Well, because in fact when we're at rest, so when we're calm and at rest, we only need to take small breaths from the tummy. None of this should ever be moving when we're at rest. So in fact what happens is that people end up over-breathing. And when you over-breathe, that means that the carbon dioxide level, because we breathe in oxygen and we breathe out carbon dioxide, it means that the carbon dioxide level gets too low. And in fact, when the carbon dioxide level is low, that can cause bronchoconstriction, which is tightness in the airways. It reduces the uptake of oxygen. It causes cough. It causes giddiness. It causes problems with the hands. It can even cause shakes of the muscles. I've even been called into accident and emergency to treat people.
So a lot of the things that we don't know what they could be, you're saying, it's funny because you're saying these things like, God, it makes so much sense.
Yeah.
All these little things because you're just not breathing correctly.
Yeah.
So the courses you're doing with Sally, are they going to be available online? Is it groups? Is it personal? What's the setup?
Well, we started doing it as an online course, and we will be getting it online hopefully next week, probably with one of the platforms such as Udemy or Daily Om or one of these platforms. We will get it online, and it will be a very reasonably priced course. But as we started telling people about the online course that we were doing, they said, oh, that's interesting. Could you come to my workshop and do that as come to my office and do that as a workshop for my staff? So now we've been doing some workshops in groups of 8 to 10 people. And really what we're doing is we've got 10 little breathing techniques that people learn. 6 or 7 breathing techniques and a meditation. And we're explaining all the time how poor breathing techniques, the problems that they contribute to, how we should breathe to really maximize ventilation. So we've got breathing exercises to maximize ventilation, breathing exercises to maximize calm, breathing exercises to reduce anxiety, so different types of breathing exercises. And so anyway, we did this workshop, and it went so well that they want us to do another workshop next month. And we're going to focus more on the anxiety aspect there, because that was particularly what went down really well, was people really enjoyed it.
People are anxious. A lot has been happening the last year or so.
Yeah.
And I suppose with business as well, if you get your staff that are breathing
Yeah.
and functioning well, it makes
Yeah.
a big difference.
Yeah. So, I mean, we look at, you know, it was lovely. So as you say, we could do it this, I mean, we were laughing. We were saying, you know, people aren't going to have Tupperware parties anymore. They're going to have breathing parties. You know, it's all going to be breathing parties. So people can host, be the host of a breathing party and get a few friends around. And Sally and myself will come to their venue. Or we can have breathing. We're trying to get groups at my venue, at my home, for the breathing workshops. But also businesses are finding that it's really useful for helping their staff to be less stressed. And we're even thinking that actually this might be something that would be useful for schools.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
We're going to have to leave it there
Yeah.
for the moment.
Yeah.
Dr. Rachel, physio and breathing will be back because it's such an important subject.
Yeah.
It's what we do, all of us, all the time, hopefully. And we need to breathe the best way we can. But I definitely think kids learning from a little age makes it much easier.
Yeah.
We're going to leave it there for today. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure to have you with us. It's been a pleasure to have you with us as well. If you would like to watch recordings of the show, you can do so from the RTV Marbella website or a quick link from my website, nicoleking.es, with links to the TV, to my column, The Marbella Moments and Euro Weekly News, and our Zero Hero website with free listings of where you can get free soft drinks if you're the designated driver. How about that?
Yeah.
Take care of yourselves, be nice to each other, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Hasta mañana.